Pregnant woman accidentally sent her ultrasound photo to a Korean Mafia boss. What he did next shocked everyone. The ultrasound image glowed on Maya Chen's phone screen as she wiped tears from her cheeks. 7 months pregnant and alone in Seoul, her trembling finger hovered over the send button. "Meet your niece," she typed to her sister in San Francisco. First clear picture of her face. "Doctor says she's perfect despite everything. I'm terrified, but we're surviving somehow." One mistyped digit, a single wrong number, would alter the course of her life forever. In the penthouse suite of Seoul's most exclusive high-rise, Sun-ho Kim's phone vibrated during a meeting that would determine the fate of millions in territory disputes. 5 of the city's most dangerous men fell silent as he glanced at the screen. His expression remained granite, but something flashed in his eyes. Not anger, not dismissal, but a fierce, unexpected recognition that made his second-in-command shift uncomfortably. "Find her," Sun-ho commanded, his voice dangerously soft as he studied the ultrasound image from an unknown woman. "Immediately." "Boss, this meeting is concluded." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "No one touches what now belongs to me." What happened next rippled through Seoul's underworld. Not with the violence everyone expected, but with something far more disruptive to the natural order, something that left even his most hardened associate speechless. By morning, Maya's life would be unrecognizable. And the man responsible would rewrite everything she thought she understood about monsters, mercy, and what it means to be truly protected. Want to know how this unexpected connection transforms both their lives? Keep reading to discover what happens when fate delivers your most vulnerable moment into the hands of Seoul's most dangerous man. Don't forget to like and follow for more stories that will leave you breathless. I never thought one wrong digit would shatter my world like glass beneath a hammer. But that's what happened. Let me back up. My name is Maya Chen. Chinese-American translator, 7 months pregnant, and very much alone in Seoul. Not the fairy tale ending my parents imagined when I graduated with honors. Definitely not what I imagined when I fell in love with James, with his perfect smile and perfectly empty promises. "It's going to be amazing, Maya," he'd said, his hands warm on my still flat stomach. "You, me, the baby. A real family." That was before he disappeared 4 months ago. Before I came home to find half the closet empty and a note that said only, "I'm sorry. I can't do this." I'd cried for days, then pulled myself together because I had no choice. No family in Seoul. Limited savings. A baby growing inside me who deserved better than a mother collapsed in grief. So I worked harder, picked up extra translation projects, stretched every one until my budget was as thin as rice paper. That morning, the morning that changed everything, I'd had my 7-month checkup. For the first time, the ultrasound showed my daughter's face clearly. Not just a blur, but her. Tiny nose, pursed lips, one hand raised near her face as if waving hello. "She's perfect," the doctor had said. "Strong heartbeat. Good position. You're doing everything right. You're doing everything right." Those words had nearly broken me right there in the examination room. When was the last time anyone had told me I was doing anything right? I'd walked home in a daze, the precious image tucked into my bag. My sister Lily had been asking for weeks to see the baby, frustrated by the grainy images from earlier scans. Now I finally had something clear to show her. In my tiny apartment, with bills spread across the kitchen table and the constant hum of anxiety that had become the soundtrack of my life, I took a photo of the ultrasound. My hand was shaking, from exhaustion, from emotion, from the 6 flights of stairs I'd climbed because the elevator was broken again. "Meet your niece," I typed. First clear picture of her face. "Doctor says she's perfect despite everything. I'm terrified, but we're surviving somehow." I didn't notice the error in the number. Didn't give it a second thought as I hit send. Didn't realize that in that moment, I just sealed my fate. 3 hours later, as I sat translating a dull corporate document to make rent, my doorbell rang. Not the gentle press of my elderly neighbor, but an insistent, authoritative buzz that sent a chill down my spine. Through the peephole, I saw them, 3 men in dark suits, expressionless, standing like sentinels in my dingy hallway. Behind them, partially obscured, a 4th man, taller, his expensive coat unbuttoned, his presence radiating a controlled power that made my breath catch. I backed away from the door, one hand instinctively cradling my belly. Who were these men? What did they want? The knock came again, firmer this time. Then a voice. Calm, measured, speaking perfect English with only the slightest accent. Ms. Chen. I know you're there. We need to talk. How did he know my name? There's been a misunderstanding, the voice continued. It would be better to discuss it now, rather than later. The quiet threat made my hands tremble. I considered calling the police, but my Korean was mediocre at best, and what would I even say? I'm not opening the door, I called, trying to sound braver than I felt. Say what you need to say from there. A pause. Then, you sent a message earlier today. An ultrasound image. It came to me by mistake. Relief flooded through me for a split second before confusion took its place. Why would a misdirected text bring 4 men to my door? I'm sorry about that, I said. Wrong number. Please delete it and forget about it. Another pause, longer this time. Open the door, Ms. Chen. I don't make requests twice. Fear crawled up my throat, bitter and metallic. But something else stirred beneath it, anger. Anger at James for leaving me to face this alone. Anger at this stranger who thought he could intimidate a pregnant woman in her own home. I yanked the door open, chain still in place, creating a narrow gap through which I could see the man in front. What do you want? I demanded, my voice steadier than I expected. His eyes met mine, dark, intelligent, assessing. He was handsome in a severe way, with sharp features that might have been carved from stone. Nothing about him suggested kindness, yet there was no overt malice either. Just a cold, calculating intensity that made me feel like a puzzle he was solving. My name is Sung-Ho Kim, he said, as if this should mean something to me. The message you sent was to my private number. A number very few people have. It was a mistake, I repeated. I was texting my sister. I understand that now, he replied, his tone softening slightly. But when I receive unexpected messages, particularly ones containing personal images, I take precautions. Well, now you know, I said. It was just a wrong number. You can go. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, there and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. It's not that simple, Ms. Chen. It is that simple, I insisted. I made a mistake. Mystery solved. Please leave. He studied me for a long moment, his gaze moving from my face to my swollen belly and back again. Something shifted in his expression, not softening, exactly, but recalculating. You're alone, he said. Not a question. That's none of your business. The child's father? Also none of your business, I snapped, anger flaring again. I'm someone who can help you, he interrupted, his voice quiet but firm. Someone who knows what it's like to want a family more than anything, and to have that possibility taken away. The words were so unexpected, so at odds with his intimidating presence, that I found myself speechless. He used my silence to continue. You're 7 months pregnant, living alone in a foreign country, in an apartment with broken security and unreliable heat. You're struggling financially, I can see the past due notices on your table from here. You're working too hard and sleeping too little. Each observation struck like a physical blow. How could he know these things? Are you threatening me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Something like surprise crossed his features. No, Ms. Chen. I'm offering to help you. Why would you help a stranger? His expression changed, something vulnerable flickering across his face before the mask returned. Because I cannot have children of my own. Ever. And because someone who can has been abandoned to struggle alone. It offends me on a fundamental level. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the cold, dangerous man who had appeared at my door with these unexpected words. I don't need charity, I said, though the lie tasted bitter. I'm not offering charity, he replied. I'm offering support. Resources. Protection. In exchange for what? Nothing you're not willing to give. The ambiguity sent another chill through me. That's not an answer. He nodded, conceding the point. For now, just your trust. Or if not trust, your suspension of disbelief. Allow me to show you that my intentions are genuine. I should have closed the door. Should have told him to leave and never come back. Instead, I found myself asking, how? He reached into his coat and withdrew a business card, plain white, with only a number embossed in black. This is my direct line. If you need anything, anything at all, call it. Day or night. When I didn't take it, he slipped it through the gap in the door. It fell to the floor between us. I'll be in touch, Ms. Chen, he said, stepping back. In the meantime, please consider what I've said. Some coincidences are too meaningful to ignore. With that, he turned and walked away, his men falling into step behind him. I closed the door, sliding to the floor as my legs gave way beneath me, the business card a few inches from my hand. What had just happened? Who was this Sung-Ho Kim? And what did he really want from me? The knock came at precisely 7 p.m. Softer this time, almost hesitant. Through the peephole, Sung-Ho Kim. Alone this time, no suited entourage, just him standing in my hallway with a large paper bag in his hands. Ms. Chen, he called, sensing my presence. I've brought dinner. Nothing more. The absurdity almost made me laugh. This dangerous-looking man, this stranger who had invaded my life hours earlier, was now standing at my door with takeout. Against every instinct, I opened the door a crack, chain still in place. What are you doing here? He held up the bag. You have very little food in your refrigerator. And what you do have lacks proper nutrition for a pregnant woman. You went through my refrigerator. The violation struck me anew, hot anger washing through me. No, he corrected calmly. But I noticed the empty delivery containers in your trash. You're living on cheap noodles and convenience store kimbap. The accuracy of his observation silenced my protest. I brought mayakuk, he continued. Seaweed soup. It's traditional for pregnant women in Korea. The gesture was so unexpected, so incongruous with the man who had intimidated me hours earlier, that I found myself speechless. May I come in? There are things you should know. Against every rational instinct, I unlatched the chain and stepped back, allowing him entry once more. This time he moved differently in my space. Less like an intruder, more like an uncertain guest. We ate in strained silence, me because I was still processing the surreal turn my life had taken, him because, I realized, he wasn't a man accustomed to casual conversation. The soup was good, rich with minerals and umami, exactly what my pregnant body craved though I hadn't known it. Why are you here? I finally asked, setting down my spoon. Really? He considered me for a long moment, as if debating how much to reveal. The number you texted, he said finally, is not one many people have. It's not in directories. It's not given out casually. So I gathered from the welcome committee this morning, I said dryly. A flicker of amusement crossed his features. An unfortunate misunderstanding. Is that what you call breaking into someone's apartment and terrorizing them? I didn't break in. You opened the door. After you made it clear you weren't leaving. He conceded the point with a slight inclination of his head. I thought you might be connected to someone who wishes me harm. Someone who might use a pregnant woman as a tool to get to me. The implications hung in the air. Someone who wishes me harm. As if he were a man accustomed to enemies, to schemes, to violence. Who are you? I whispered, though part of me didn't want to know. He set down his chopsticks, met my gaze directly. Someone with resources, he said carefully. Someone who recognized your vulnerability this morning and realized how easily it could be exploited. By you, I said, anger flaring again. By people who would not have brought you dinner, he interrupted, his voice calm but with an edge that silenced me. By people who would have seen your condition as leverage, not as something to protect. I don't need protection, I insisted, the same empty words I'd spoken to myself for months. I was managing just fine before you showed up. He studied me, his gaze moving from my face to the apartment around us, the worn furniture, the stack of bills, the single set of dishes. Were you? He asked quietly. The simple question undid me. Tears welled up suddenly, hot and unwelcome. I blinked them back furiously, refusing to cry in front of this stranger. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice thick with unshed tears. Nothing you're not willing to give, he repeated. Then, more softly, for now, just the chance to help. To ensure you and your child are safe and provided for. Why would you care about a stranger's child? He was silent for so long I thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Because 7 years ago, my wife was where you are now. Pregnant. Vulnerable. He paused, and I saw his jaw tighten. She died in childbirth. The baby too. Because the medical care was inadequate, because she was too proud to ask for help, because I was too busy building an empire to notice she was struggling. The confession hung in the air, unexpected and raw. I'm sorry, I said inadequately. He nodded once, acknowledgement rather than acceptance. Get some rest, Ms. Chen. I'll have groceries delivered tomorrow. Proper food, not just instant noodles. Before I could protest, he rose from the table, collected the empty containers, and moved toward the door. Wait, I called, still processing everything he'd revealed. I still don't understand what you want from me. He turned back, his expression somber. I told you, nothing you're not willing to give. For now, just your trust. Or if not trust, then your willingness to accept help when it's offered with no strings attached. With that, he was gone, leaving me with a full stomach, unanswered questions, and the disorienting feeling that my world had tilted on its axis. The groceries arrived at precisely 9 a.m. Not just basics, but a thoughtful selection, fresh fruits and vegetables, high-quality proteins, iron-rich greens, calcium supplements specifically for pregnant women. Enough to fill my small refrigerator to capacity. There was no note, no indication of who had sent them beyond the obvious. No expectation of thanks. Just food. Good food. More food than I'd been able to afford in months. I should have been grateful. Instead, I felt anger bubbling up, anger at being reduced to charity, at having my struggles so clearly seen, at being made to feel like a project rather than a person. I grabbed my phone and typed quickly, I don't need your groceries. I don't need your pity. I need you to leave me alone. The response came almost immediately, not pity. Respect. For your strength in difficult circumstances. Another message followed, accept the groceries or don't. They're yours without obligation. But please consider that your child deserves proper nutrition, regardless of your pride. The calm reasonableness only fueled my anger. Don't use my child to manipulate me, I shot back. You know nothing about me or what I deserve. A longer pause. Then, you're right. I apologize for overstepping. The groceries are yours to keep or donate as you see fit. I won't contact you again unless you reach out first. I stared at the message, taken aback by the simple capitulation. I'd expected argument, justification, perhaps even threat. Not this immediate acceptance of my boundaries. For the rest of the day, I tried to work, to focus on my translations. But my eyes kept drifting to the groceries, to the evidence of someone seeing my needs and meeting them without being asked. By evening, my anger had cooled, replaced by a nagging sense that I'd overreacted. Was it pride or self-preservation driving my resistance? The baby kicked hard, as if offering her opinion. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the fluttery movements. What should we do, little one? I whispered. Should we accept help when it's offered, even if we don't understand why? My phone rang, an American number. My sister Lily. Maya, she exclaimed. I've been trying to reach you for days. Are you okay? I'm fine, I assured her, though the words felt hollow. Just busy with work. Did you go to your checkup? How's my niece doing? I swallowed hard, suddenly remembering the ultrasound photo that had started all of this. She's good. Perfect, actually. I tried to send you a picture but I think I mistyped your number. Oh no. Who got it instead? Some random Korean person. You have no idea, I thought. Something like that, I said aloud. By the time we hung up, I felt more grounded than I had since Sung-ho Kim appeared at my door. I looked at the groceries again, then at my phone. Before I could talk myself out of it, I typed, "Thank you for the groceries." I overreacted. It's been a difficult few months. His reply came quickly, no apology necessary. Your caution is understandable. I hesitated, then added, I still don't understand why you're doing this. Because I can, came the simple response. Because it's needed. No strings, no expectations. I stared at those words, trying to find the hidden agenda, the catch that must be there. But what if there wasn't one? What if this strange, intimidating man genuinely wanted to help? Okay, I typed finally. I accept your help. For my daughter's sake. Thank you for your trust. It won't be misplaced. That night, as I prepared a proper meal for the first time in weeks, I wondered what I'd just agreed to. What boundaries I'd crossed. What new path I was setting myself on by accepting help from a man who was clearly more dangerous than he appeared. I couldn't have known then how completely my life was about to change. The next morning, as I prepared for a doctor's appointment, a knock came at my door. Not Sung-ho this time, but one of his suits, the youngest of the group. Mr. Kim sent me to escort you, he said politely. If you have errands to run or appointments today. I almost laughed at the absurdity. An armed escort for a prenatal checkup. I have a doctor's appointment, I said flatly. I don't need an escort. Mr. Kim thought you might say that, He young man replied, untroubled. He asked me to give you this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a black credit card with my name on it and a note in elegant handwriting, for medical expenses. Use it without concern. The doctor has been notified to expect you and to provide the highest standard of care. My throat tightened. How had he known about my appointment? How had he contacted my doctor? How had he arranged a credit card in my name? The doctor has been notified, I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. What exactly does that mean? The young man looked uncomfortable. I believe Mr. Kim spoke with the clinic director. To ensure you receive priority care. And if I refuse? If I want to see my regular doctor without interference? That's entirely your choice, Ms. Chen, he replied carefully. I'm just here to offer assistance, not to force anything upon you. I studied him. What's your name? I asked impulsively. June, he answered after a slight hesitation, as if unused to being asked. Well, June, you can tell Mr. Kim that I appreciate his concern, but I make my own medical decisions. I'll use the card, but I'll see my regular doctor on my regular schedule. June nodded, seemingly relieved. I'll convey your message. Would you like me to drive you to your appointment? I almost refused, then glanced out the window at the heavy rain. The bus stop was 3 blocks away, and my umbrella had broken last week. Fine, I conceded. But just to the clinic and back. Inside the clinic, I was stunned to find myself immediately ushered into an examination room, bypassing the usual hour-long wait. When my regular doctor, Dr. Park, entered, her manner was different, more deferential, almost nervous. Ms. Chen, she said, smiling too brightly. How are you feeling today? Fine, I replied cautiously. Nothing has changed since last week. She nodded, glancing at her tablet. I see you have new insurance coverage. Very comprehensive. Excellent. Sung-ho's work, clearly. Is everything okay, Dr. Park? I asked, watching her fidget. You seem nervous. She laughed, a brittle sound. Not at all. Just a busy morning. Now, let's check on your little one. The examination proceeded normally, except for the obvious care Dr. Park took in explaining everything in detail. When it was time for the ultrasound, she used a newer machine, the images crisp on the monitor. Your daughter is developing beautifully, Dr. Park said. Strong heartbeat, good growth, excellent position. She's going to be perfect. Perfect. The same word she'd used last week, but somehow weighted differently now. As if my daughter's perfection had become more important. After the appointment, as I was leaving, the clinic director himself appeared to escort me to the door. Ms. Chen, he said, bowing slightly. It was an honor to have you visit our facility today. Please don't hesitate to call directly if you need anything at all. I nodded, confused by the royal treatment but too overwhelmed to question it further. Outside, June was waiting exactly where he'd promised. How was your appointment? He asked as I slid into the passenger seat. Surreal, I answered honestly. What exactly did Mr. Kim tell them about me? June's expression grew carefully blank. I wouldn't know the details, Ms. Chen. But you know something. The director himself walked me out. The doctor was nervous. Everyone treated me like someone under Mr. Kim's protection, June finished quietly. Protection. There was that word again. What did protection mean to a man like Sung-ho Kim? What did it entail? What did it cost? As June drove me home, I stared out at Seoul's rain-slicked streets. This was the same city I'd lived in for 3 years, but suddenly it felt foreign, dangerous, filled with unseen currents I couldn't navigate alone. June, I said suddenly. Who is Sung-ho Kim? Really? His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Mr. Kim is a businessman with diverse interests, he replied, a prepared response. That's not an answer. June glanced at me, then back at the road. It's not my place to discuss Mr. Kim's affairs, Ms. Chen. I just drive the car. But you know. Is he dangerous? A longer pause. Then, softly, to his enemies, yes. Very. To those under his protection? Never. The simple answer sent a chill down my spine, confirming what I'd suspected. Sung-ho Kim wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was someone powerful enough to inspire fear, someone with enemies, someone who operated in a world I knew nothing about. And now, for reasons I couldn't comprehend, he had decided to extend his protection to me and my unborn child. Back at my apartment, I found more deliveries, baby items this time. A crib far nicer than anything I could have afforded. A stroller with all the latest safety features. Tiny clothes still with tags attached. Diapers, wipes, formula, bottles. Everything a newborn could need, arranged neatly in what had been my small home office. My first instinct was anger again, the presumption, the invasion. But as I ran my fingers over the soft fabrics, as I examined the quality of the crib, a different emotion took hold. Relief. Profound relief. I sank onto my couch, hand resting on my belly, and allowed myself to feel it fully. The lightening of the burden I'd been carrying alone. The easing of the constant worry about how I would provide for my daughter. I reached for my phone, thank you for the baby things. They're beautiful. His reply came quickly, I'm glad they meet your needs. Is there anything missing that you require? I hesitated, then typed, answers. I need to understand who you are and why you're doing this. That's fair. Would tomorrow evening be convenient for a conversation? I can come to you, or you to me, whichever makes you more comfortable. The choice itself was significant, an acknowledgement of my agency. My apartment, I replied. 7 p.m. I'll be there. As I assembled the crib with surprisingly clear instructions, I tried to prepare myself for what tomorrow might bring. What truths would be revealed? What decisions I might have to make? The baby kicked energetically, as if sensing my turmoil. "I know, little one," I whispered, placing my hand where I'd felt the movement. "I'm trying to make the right choices for both of us." But what was right? What was safe? I had no map for these uncharted waters, no compass but my instinct for survival. An instinct that had kept me going through months of abandonment, but was now sending contradictory signals about the man who had appeared with offers of help and hints of danger. Sung-ho arrived precisely at 7 p.m., alone again, bearing a small gift, a traditional Korean maternal pendant said to protect mother and child. "My mother wore this when she was carrying me," he said as he handed me the delicate silver necklace. "It said to bring good fortune and safe delivery." I held it carefully, touched but still wary. "It's beautiful, but I can't accept something so personal." "It's just gathering dust otherwise," he replied with a slight smile. "But as always, the choice is yours." I set the pendant aside gently. For now, there were more pressing matters. "You promised me answers," I began. He nodded, expression serious. "Ask your questions, Miss Chen. I'll answer as truthfully as I can." "Maya," I corrected automatically. "If you're buying me cribs and arranging my medical care, you might as well use my first name." A brief smile touched his lips. "Maya, then." The way he said it, carefully pronouncing each syllable, sent an unexpected shiver through me. "Who are you?" I asked, the question that had been haunting me. "Really? Not just a businessman with diverse interests." He considered me, as if assessing how much truth I could handle. "I run several legitimate businesses," he began. "Real estate, primarily. Import, export. Technology investments. But I also control what you might call a shadow economy in Seoul. Protection services. Dispute resolution. Territory management." The euphemisms weren't lost on me. "You're a gangster," I translated bluntly. A flicker of amusement crossed his features. "That's a simplistic term, but not entirely inaccurate. In Korean, we would say, kangpai. Though I prefer to think of myself as a problem solver." "And what kind of problems do you solve?" "Various kinds. Business disagreements. Territory disputes. Matters of honor and reputation. With violence." His expression grew serious. "When necessary. But violence is inefficient, Maya. Messy. Expensive. I prefer negotiation, leverage, mutual benefit. Violence is a last resort, not a first instinct." I tried to reconcile the calm, articulate man sitting at my table with the ruthless criminal he was describing. "Are you wanted by the police?" He actually laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his features. "No. The relationship is more complicated than that. Let's just say there's an understanding between my organization and various authorities." "Corruption, you mean?" "Pragmatism," he corrected. "The world is rarely as black and white as we might wish it to be." "And now you've decided to extend your protection to me," I said. "Why?" "The truth this time. Not just about your wife." He was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, more reflective. "When I received your message, that ultrasound, with those words about being terrified but surviving, it felt like a sign. A second chance." He paused. "I couldn't save my wife. Couldn't save our child. But perhaps I could help you. Not out of pity, but because some debts can never be repaid directly. They can only be paid forward. I'm not your redemption project," I said, more gently than I intended. "No," he agreed. "You're a strong woman in a difficult situation who deserves support. My reasons may be complex, even selfish in their own way, but they don't change the fundamental truth: you need help, and I can provide it. No strings, no expectations. Everyone wants something," I insisted. "Perhaps that's been your experience," he said quietly. "It hasn't always been mine." We sat in silence, the weight of his revelation settling between us. He was a criminal. He was powerful, dangerous to his enemies. And for reasons tied to his own past trauma, he had decided to help me. What does this protection actually entail? I asked. What are you offering, exactly? Financial support, obviously. Medical care of the highest quality. Security if needed. A place to live that's safer than this apartment. Practical assistance with whatever you need. He paused. And a guarantee that no harm will come to you or your child while you're under my protection. And after the baby is born? What then? That would be your choice, he said simply. My support continues for as long as you want or need it. If you choose to return to America, I can arrange that. If you prefer to stay in Korea, I can ensure you both have everything you need. What he was proposing wasn't just help with groceries, it was a complete safety net, a restructuring of my existence from precarious to protected. And what would people think? I asked, a new worry surfacing. About my relationship with you. You're concerned about your reputation. I nodded, cheeks warming. People will always talk, he said pragmatically. But we can present this however makes you comfortable. Business arrangement. Family connection. Or we can simply not explain ourselves to anyone at all. That last option appealed to me, the part tired of justifying my choices, of explaining my situation. I need to think about all of this, I said finally. Of course, he replied, rising. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. He moved toward the door, then paused. Maya, whatever you decide, you're no longer alone in this. Even if you reject everything else I'm offering, I'll still ensure you have what you need for a safe delivery and a healthy child. The simple promise, delivered without drama or expectation, broke through my resistance. Tears welled in my eyes. Thank you, I managed. For giving me a choice. For not just taking over. Something softened in his expression. Choice is the one thing that should never be taken from anyone, he said quietly. Then he was gone. I moved to the window, watching as he emerged below. No car waited for him. He simply buttoned his coat against the evening chill and walked away. On my table, the maternal pendant caught the lamplight. I picked it up carefully, feeling its weight, considering all it represented, protection, but also connection. History. Continuity. I slipped it over my head, the silver cool against my skin. Not a decision about everything he'd offered, but a first step. An acknowledgement that sometimes help comes from unexpected sources, and sometimes pride is a luxury a mother-to-be cannot afford. The baby kicked, as if in approval. I know, little one, I whispered. I'm doing my best for both of us. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in months, the pendant a small weight over my heart, the knowledge of not being completely alone a greater weight lifted from my shoulders. 2 weeks later, I was in my kitchen when a sharp pain lanced through my abdomen. I gasped, clutching the edge of the counter as the room tilted around me. Too early. It was too early for labor. But as a second pain followed, I fumbled for my phone with trembling fingers. June answered immediately. Miss Chen. Is everything all right? Pain, I managed. Something's wrong. Need hospital. Stay where you are. I'll be there in 7 minutes. In the hospital. Not my regular clinic but a prestigious facility, a team was already waiting. I was whisked into an examination room, monitors attached, questions fired in rapid Korean I couldn't follow through waves of pain. And then, cutting through the chaos, Sung-ho's voice. He spoke rapidly to the doctors, his tone brooking no argument. Braxton Hicks contractions, the doctor explained. False labor. Painful but not dangerous. Combined with dehydration and exhaustion. Relief washed through me, followed by embarrassment. All this drama for practice contractions. But when I tried to apologize, Sung-ho silenced me with a gentle hand on my arm. Never apologize for protecting your child, he said quietly. I was settled into a private room that looked more like a hotel suite, complete with comfortable seating and a view over the Han River. You arranged all this, I said as a nurse hooked up in 4. In the 7 minutes it took June to reach me. He shrugged slightly. I have arrangements with several hospitals. Standing protocols for emergencies. For pregnant women having false labor. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. For anyone under my protection who needs medical care. The casual display of power should have disturbed me. But in that moment, weak and frightened for my child, I felt only gratitude. Thank you, I said simply. He nodded once, then surprised me by pulling a chair closer and sitting down. I'll stay until you fall asleep, he said, not a question but a statement of intent. Too exhausted to argue, I closed my eyes. Just before consciousness slipped away, I felt something unexpected, the gentle brush of fingers against my hair, so light it might have been imagined. I woke hours later to find him still there, head tilted back in the chair, eyes closed, looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. The sight created a strange ache in my chest. The recognition of his humanity beneath the carefully constructed exterior. As if sensing my gaze, his eyes opened, immediately alert. How do you feel? He asked, straightening. Better, I replied honestly. Foolish, but better. There's nothing foolish about caution where your child is concerned. The doctor arrived then, confirming I could be discharged. As the nurse removed the 4, Sung-ho stepped out to make calls. When he returned, his expression had changed. Hardened from the almost gentle look he'd worn at my bedside to something colder, more focused. What's wrong? I asked, sensing the shift. He hesitated, clearly debating how much to tell me. There may be a complication, he said finally. Your ex-boyfriend has returned to Seoul. He's been making inquiries about you. The news hit me like a physical blow. James. Here. Why? I have sources at immigration, at hotels. His name was flagged the moment he entered the country. The casual admission of surveillance should have alarmed me, but I was too shocked by James's return. What does he want? I don't know yet, Sung-ho replied. But given the timing, it seems unlikely to be coincidence. What do you mean? He sat on the edge of my bed, expression serious. Maya, in the past 2 weeks, your situation has changed. You've moved from struggling alone to having resources, support, quality medical care. These things are noticeable. People talk. It's possible James has heard rumors. Rumors about what? About you? About us? The last word felt strange, implying a connection I wasn't sure how to define. About a pregnant foreign woman receiving protection from someone with influence, he clarified. The fact that you're no longer vulnerable would be obvious to anyone asking the right questions. You think he's back because he knows someone is helping me? That doesn't make sense. He walked away months ago. He made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. People change their minds, Sung-ho said grimly. Especially when circumstances change. When something they discarded suddenly appears valuable to others. The suggestion sent a chill through me. Not because I believed James would want me back, but because I could imagine him resenting someone else stepping into the role he'd abandoned. What do we do? I asked, unconsciously including Sung-ho in the decision. For now, you come to my home, he said carefully. Not as a prisoner or dependent, but as a guest. Until we understand James's intentions, it's safer than your apartment. I should have protested. Should have insisted on my independence. Instead, I found myself nodding, too weary from the night's false alarm, too unsettled by the news of James's return to argue. Just until we know what he wants, I stipulated. Just until then, Sung-ho agreed, though something in his expression suggested he expected this arrangement to last longer. I was discharged mid-morning, escorted to a car with tinted windows and what I suspected was bulletproof glass. We didn't go to the high-rise I'd imagined, but to a traditional Korean house, a hanok, set behind high walls in a quiet neighborhood. The contrast between the modern security system and the centuries-old architecture created a strange juxtaposition. Inside, the hanok was a blend of traditional elements and modern comforts, Heated floors, updated kitchen, minimalist furnishings that complemented the historical structure. Beautiful, serene, nothing like the cold fortress I had expected. This was my grandmother's home, Sung-ho explained as he showed me to a guest room that had clearly been prepared for my arrival. It's been in my family for generations. The room was spacious, with a comfortable bed and windows overlooking a garden. Someone had placed vases of fresh flowers on the bedside table, their delicate scent perfuming the air. You've been planning this, I said, noticing the prenatal vitamins arranged neatly, the maternity C. Lothies in the closet. Before last night. Before James. Sung-ho didn't deny it. I've been prepared for various possibilities, he said simply. Including the need for you to stay here temporarily. The admission should have angered me, the presumption, the planning without my knowledge. Instead, I found myself touched by the thoughtfulness. The room wasn't just functional, it was designed for comfort, for peace of mind. Rest, Sung-ho said, moving toward the door. We'll talk more when you've recovered. June will bring lunch. If you need anything, use this. He handed me a small device with a single button. It will alert security immediately. I have meetings I can't postpone, but someone will always be within call. After he left, I explored the room thoroughly, running my fingers over fine fabrics, examining the books on the shelf, classics in English, Korean, and Mandarin. Testing the mattress that seemed perfectly suited to a pregnant woman's needs. The care evident in these details told me more about Sung-ho Kim than any conversation had. This wasn't the work of a man fulfilling an obligation. This was someone who paid attention, who anticipated needs, who wanted genuine comfort rather than just functional accommodation. After lunch, I explored the house cautiously, mindful of being a guest. In one wing, I found what was clearly Sung-ho's office. The door opened, revealing a space that was both traditional and thoroughly modern. In another room, I discovered something unexpected, a nursery. Not recently prepared like my guest room, but long established. The furniture was high quality but not new, the walls painted a soft yellow that had faded slightly with time. A rocking chair sat by the window, a handmade quilt draped over its arm. This would have been for his child. The child he'd lost along with his wife. The room had been preserved, not as a shrine, but as a possibility never realized. I backed out quietly, feeling like an intruder in a private grief. But the discovery shifted something in my understanding of Sung-ho, deepened it, complicated it. This wasn't just about fulfilling an obligation to a stranger who reminded him of his late wife. This was about a wound that had never healed. By the time he returned that evening, I had settled into an uneasy acceptance of my new situation. If this was to be my gilded cage until James's intentions became clear, I could endure it. Sung-ho found me in the courtyard, sitting by the fountain despite the winter chill, wrapped in a warm blanket. You should be inside, he said. It's too cold for you out here. I needed fresh air, I replied. And time to think. He nodded and sat beside me on the stone bench. For several minutes, we simply existed in silence, listening to the gentle splash of water. I found the nursery, I said finally, not looking at him. It's beautiful. I felt him stiffen slightly, then deliberately relax. It was prepared 7 years ago, he said quietly. I've never had the heart to change it. You don't have to explain. I know. He paused, then continued anyway. Her name was to be Su-min, pure cleverness. My wife was convinced she would be brilliant. The simple statement, offered without drama, broke my heart more than any tearful confession could have. This controlled, powerful man, sitting in a garden he had preserved along with a nursery never used, carrying grief like a stone. I'm sorry, I said. For intruding. For reminding you. You don't remind me, he corrected gently. You represent something different entirely. A second chance, perhaps. Not to replace what was lost, but to protect something new. The distinction was important, to him and to me. I wasn't a substitute for his lost wife and child. I wasn't being molded to fill that vacancy. I was something separate, valued for myself and my daughter, connected to his past but not defined by it. Have you heard anything about James? I asked, changing the subject. Sung-ho's expression hardened. He's staying at a hotel in Itaewon. He's been asking questions about you, at your apartment building, at the translation agency, at your former doctor's office. What does he want? Money, most likely, Sung-ho replied pragmatically. He's in debt, gambling, primarily. Has been for some time. It's probably why he left Korea so abruptly. The revelation shouldn't have hurt, not after everything James had already done, but it did. Another lie, another betrayal. And now he's back because he thinks I have access to money, I said flatly. Because he's heard rumors about me being protected by someone influential. Sung-ho nodded. It seems the most likely scenario. Though we won't know for certain until he makes direct contact. If he makes direct contact, I corrected. He doesn't know I'm here. No, Sung-ho agreed. But he's determined. He was at your doctor's office this afternoon, asking about your next appointment. Fresh alarm coursed through me. How close is he to finding me? Not close, Sung-ho assured me. The staff has been instructed to protect your privacy. And even if he discovered you were here, the security would prevent any unwanted contact. So I'm safe, but effectively in hiding, I summarized, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. For now, he acknowledged. Until we can resolve the situation more permanently. And how do we do that? Pay him off. Threaten him? I was only half joking. That depends on you, he said carefully. On what you want. On how you wish to handle the father of your child. The deliberate phrasing. The father of your child, rather than your ex-boyfriend, emphasized the permanence of my connection to James, regardless of our broken relationship. I don't know what I want, I admitted. I never expected to see him again. Sung-ho nodded, understanding in his eyes. Then we wait. We gather more information. We make no decisions until we must. The "we" wasn't lost on me. The acknowledgement that whatever happened next would involve us both, that our lives had become entangled beyond simple benefactor and recipient, protector and protected. Come, he said, rising and offering his hand. It's too cold out here. Dinner is waiting, and you need to eat. I placed my hand in his, allowing him to help me up, the baby's weight making me clumsier than usual. His grip was warm and solid, his strength evident but carefully controlled. As we walked back into the warmth of the house, I found myself wondering how I'd gone from independent single mother-to-be to someone sheltered in a criminal's home, hiding from my ex, accepting protection from a man whose world operated by rules I still didn't fully understand. And the strangest part? Despite everything, I felt safer than I had in months. More seen. More supported. Less alone. Whatever came next. With James, with the baby, with the increasingly complex relationship forming between me and Sung-ho, I would face it from a position of strength rather than desperate vulnerability. And for now, that was enough.